Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Beau Real Estate Podcast. I really appreciate it. Today, I interviewed James Michener, real estate agent with Realty One Group, and we discussed something very important right now. Right now, it's no secret that we have to be doing more. The market has slowed down, but there is still business to be earned out there. So, social media, cold calling, all these different things, just hustle is what we need to be doing right now, just doing more. So, on this episode, we talk about cold calling. We talk about how to become a cold calling killer and how to handle certain objections that you may have struggled with before. So, I'm really excited for you to tune into this episode. Let me know what you think. Let's get right into it. All right, everybody, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time tuning into the Beau Real Estate Podcast. My name is Beau Bullard. I'm with Pioneer Title Agency here in Arizona, and today's a cool day. I'm having James Michener on the podcast for the second time. What's up, man? Thanks for being here.
Dude, excited. I've seen a lot of posts on social media of agents needing to get back into the groove of things, right? And figure out what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk about going back to the basics on how I started my real estate career and transitioning to the basics instead of trying all the outlying stuff that everybody says to do.
Yeah, so it's funny because during the COVID years of real estate where everything was just popping, super busy, a lot of people said if you had a pen and a pulse, you were getting deals, right? And so a lot of people joined the real estate market during that time. And now it seems like we're really starting to see the agents who are skilled and know the skills to actually generate business. They're the ones that are standing out in this market. And we're seeing a lot of people exit the market because it's become more difficult to get business than it was before.
Yeah. But to your point, I also feel like it's important that you're building your skill set now. And that's something I did early in my career. I started during the slow times and then it picked up. And thankfully I had built those skills so that when it did come to, the boil on top of the water with all the fish, I was able to pull those out.
Right.
But it's because I took the time to develop my skills during that slow period, which when it got busy, I was able to just slay it and do really well.
Yeah. So one thing that's been on my mind a lot recently is I've been seeing agents who have been in real estate for, let's say, a little bit, right? And a little bit meaning 10 years and more.
Yeah.
A lot of times I like to talk to newer agents, but in this case, with what we're seeing with the market, we're seeing a lot of agents who have been in the business for a while struggling.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to talk to you because, you really haven't seen a dramatic shift in your business since, in the last 10 years or so. I mean, it's stayed really steady for you guys.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about how. And a lot of times on podcasts, people will talk about things that they think people want to hear.
Yeah.
And on this one, I really want to get nitty gritty with things. People will say post on social media. Yeah. Make your calls. Yeah. You just need to put in the work. But what is the work?
Yeah.
What are the real things that agents should be doing, whether they're brand new or even more importantly, whether they've been in the game for a while and they're struggling badly right now? What are the things that they need to be doing? So just before we do that, real quick, for anybody who doesn't know, introduce yourself, tell people who you are, and then we'll go from there.
All right. James Michener from Prescott, Arizona. Been in real estate a little over a decade. Grew up in Prescott. Left, did some teaching in Taiwan, worked at a bank, and then decided to lay my roots down here and started selling some real estate. My guardian father's been selling real estate since 47 years. So I got to see how that worked out, how he was able to get financially free through real estate by being a real estate agent and investing the commissions, right?
Yeah.
So, and to your point, I do think that agents need to know what needs to happen going forward.
Right.
And for me, it's going back to the basics and just contacting people and making those outbound calls to new leads and your sphere of influence, especially.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just jump right in. If somebody's listening to this and they're a real estate agent and they have been a real estate agent for a while and they found some success during COVID, or they're a new real estate agent. We're just talking about real estate agents in general.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter who you are right now. You have to be putting in the work or you are slow.
Absolutely.
And so for an agent that's listening to this, the moment that they
walk away from this podcast, what should they make as their game plan that they do every single day? It's a non-negotiable. Like, what are some of the basics that you suggest that they go do?
Yeah. So I kind of want to start off with my story of when I started, right?
Yeah.
So, and where I'm at now, which we're closing 250 to 300 deals a year. The most I've ever done myself is 183 with just myself and a transaction coordinator assistant. Yeah. So that was, pretty hardcore and pretty intense, but it separated me and got me to financial freedom pretty quickly as well.
Right. Yeah.
By sticking to the basics. So for me, grew up in Prescott, had a single mom. We didn't have a lot of money at all. A lot of times we were on food stamps and just access and just scraping by, right? So I always knew I wanted more for myself, and I always knew I had that potential. I've always hustled and had little landscaping businesses, junking out, helping the landlord at the properties clean stuff up, paint and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I always had that hustle inside of me. So for a while I was doing the corporate thing, right? And I had always had an interest in real estate because, again, my guardian father sold real estate. He has rental properties, and he was able to retire at the age of 53 years old. And it was so cool to see that because a lot of my other friends' parents were doctors, nurses, and they were still working into their 60s, even 70s. I'm like, how did he retire? My guardian father retired so early, right?
Right.
But one thing he shared with me is he's like, I went really hard on the commission sales, right? Tried to get as many transactions as I could, and then put that money away into saving for the future, whether that was stocks, and a lot of it was portfolio driven through real estate portfolio, which was just great to see. So there was a blueprint there, right? But I knew I had to do really well. But when I got into real estate, I didn't close a transaction until July 1st. And I started back in November and didn't close a deal until July 1st. And for the first 3 months, our broker's like, hey, do open houses, send out letters to your sphere of influence, post a little bit on social media, call out your sphere of influence and see if they can, if they'll give you business. The problem was I was 26 years old. I was new to the business. It was still a little bit slow. And I just trusted their advice. So a month into it, they had the brokerage had a trainer that would come in, and he would do coaching. And it was basically on cold calling, sitting down at your desk, making calls for 3 to 4 hours. Well, I'd worked at Grand Canyon University where I sat in a cubicle doing that for 8 hours a day, and it was terrible, right? I did good. I was the lead salesperson there as well for my team, but I just didn't want to do that. So I was like, well, I'll try the open houses. I'll do a little bit of door knocking. I'll reach out to my sphere of influence and see if I can get some deals. Well, again, nothing was happening. And 4 months later, he goes, hey, when are you going to start calling again? Or when are you going to start calling actual canceled expireds and do neighborhood calling? I'm like, I just don't know if I want to do that. He's like, there's no way you're going to make it in this business if you don't do it. You're young. The market's kind of depressed right now. We're not in that upswing yet. You got to do that.
Yeah.
So a week goes by. I'm contemplating everything. Almost got a second job at a bank here locally. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to start watching some YouTube videos on prospecting and see what that looks like. So ended up following a guy and got some good tips on neighborhood calling.
Who was the guy?
Colton Lindsay.
Colton Lindsay.
Yeah, Colton Lindsay. He has a good training program himself, but more around building businesses rather than real estate.
Oh, right. Point. Okay.
But it was a good foundation because I saw that it could actually work, right? To do something like that. Then I started doing more research, and I'm like, man, people that are doing these calls are making a grip of money, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I started making those calls and I started setting up appointments. I'm like, wow, this isn't actually not that bad. And what I was doing is I was just pulling leads off of Craigslist and Zillow and calling those for sale by owners. I had no system implemented. I had no CRM at that point in time. It was just notepad and paper. And I would see these listings get taken by other agents. I'm like, man, I've called that guy 3 times, right? But my follow-up wasn't very good. So then I had to go through and develop these systems so that I could get more of these listings going. So July 1st, I closed my first deal. So it was nine months later, I closed my first deal after starting full-time in real estate.
Yeah.
And from July 1st to the end of the year, I closed 26 deals, which was awesome. It was amazing. Everybody's like, wow, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? You know, some people would be haters, like, he's just getting the low end stuff. He's not getting any high end stuff. But for me, it was important because those transactions moved, right?
They add up.
Yeah, they add up. My first commission check that I ever had was $5,600. And me and my wife went to dinner that night and I said, man, if I could close 10 of these a month, that's $50,000 a month. Like, imagine what we could do with that, right?
Yeah.
So my goal was, I was going to start doing the calls.
Yeah.
So I started developing a schedule for myself because I knew if I just let it go by chance, it wasn't going to happen or it'd be too sporadic, and I just didn't want that. So then I started doing my calls at like 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And I would call until about 11, but there's only so many for sale by owners that you could call at that time. And then, but I'd mix it in with my sphere of influence as well. So eventually, after calling for sale by owners for a full year, I decided, you know, there's another agent in our market that's doing really well. He's just crushing it. What is he doing? So I started asking some questions, canceled and expireds, right? Mixed in with the for sale by owners. So for me, it was hugely important that I got a calling system. So like a lot of people, you want to start with the cheaper data. And so I'd be calling these canceled and expireds, not really getting a hold of very many, maybe like 30 to 40% of them. But I saw this other agent killing it, right? So I reached out, I'm like, hey, where do you get your data? Like, you're doing really great. It's like Vulcan 7. So I ended up switching over to Vulcan 7 and using their dialer and their database, right? So no true CRM at this point. And if I can give any like little tip right now, is develop CRM with your sphere of influence and your past clients, because it's going to be hugely important going further into your business, because that's where you're going to be able to generate your systems for referral basis, keep in touch with them a little better, and not just have it on your cell phone making these calls. So that's a huge thing that I wish I would have learned, having a CRM and building that database for past clients.
Oh, interesting.
So another important thing is I switched over to Vulcan 7. The data was amazing, right? It costs about 2 to 3 times as much for that data, but I was getting a hold of people, which was awesome. And then I had a calendar system. So not only would I plug it into Vulcan for the follow-up, but I'd plug it into my calendar as well.
Interesting.
So I started getting on these appointments like over and over and over again. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm killing it. But the majority of that didn't come from the first call, right? It came from following up. So I had to set my schedule up for a 5-day, 6-day week where I was going to be calling from 9 a.m. to 11:30 or so.
So real quick, the amount of how many times did you have to follow up, just on average, before you got into a real conversation or even contract?
Generally, when I was going to get the listing signed, I had to follow up 13 times.
13. Yeah. That's pretty much on statistics.
Yeah, it's generally between 12 and 15, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of right there in the middle.
Right.
And I had this illusion that people were just going to have me over to list their property on the first call, which rarely ever happens.
Yeah.
So for a lot of agents out there, don't think that your calls are going to end up to a listing appointment the first time you call them. Don't get discouraged. Like, do the follow-up, set up your systems, have your daily schedule, and just rock it from there.
Have you had times like that where you called one time and they were like, you know what, boom, okay, we're ready?
Absolutely. So one of the things I had to switch is, instead of calling from 9 to 11, I started calling at 8:30. Then I started calling at 8. And I kept losing out on appointments because they said, oh, this other guy called at 7:45 in the morning. I'm like, 7:45? Like, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm like, I'll give it a shot, right? So I started calling at 7:45 in the morning, only hitting the new, canceled, and expireds and the for sale by owners.
Interesting.
I wouldn't be calling my sphere of influence or anything, but I needed to get the new leads dialed first thing in the morning, right? And then transition it into the other calls. So what I noticed is, if you're the first person to call, you don't have as many objections to overcome, right?
Interesting.
Because they start getting a lot of calls after like 8:30 at that point. So they know what's going on. They know that they have leverage over agents, and you're not getting asked all the questions that they start building up as they're in between phone calls. So for me, that was huge, right? Being the first person to call, touching base with them, and usually I could set that. I would say my chances increased by 50% if I was the first person to call that day on my first call, which was great. So I started landing more of those listing appointments that way. And then really, really scheduling out, okay, so I did my new calls. Now what am I going to do, right? And then that would turn into, so the new calls with the cancel expireds for sell by owners turn into, right after that, dialing the new or the previous canceled and expired that I hadn't gotten a hold of, right?
Okay.
And then the next one was calling follow-up calls to those same people.
Right.
And then I would transition in my sphere of influence or neighborhood calling.
Okay, so if you had to rank
Mm-hmm.
which one has been most successful
Mm-hmm.
between canceled expireds, for sale by owners, and sphere of influence, out of those 4 buckets, which ones do you think that you've gotten the most business from?
I know for sure it's been for sale by owners.
Okay.
And the reason it's for sale by owners is because they're rude, right? So at first, they're just not very friendly.
Okay.
They don't really like real estate agents. They don't see a whole lot of value.
Or they would have hired one to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the great thing about for sale by owners is that they're rude and they're not very nice in the beginning, right? So a lot of people will fall off and they won't call them.
Oh, right.
So the competition was way lower. With cancel and expireds, they had already raised their hand saying, hey, I'm comfortable with working with a real estate agent.
Help.
It just didn't work, right? For sale by owners, they don't want your help. They want to save that commission.
Okay.
So I figured out that for sale by owners are like fruit on a tree. You can't pick them until they're ripe, right? And you're not going to get that business until they're ripe. So it was a follow-up game with them. Also, with for sale by owners, it's about empathizing with them and understanding that they just want to net a certain number. So my calls would change from, hey, you need to hire a real estate agent to, hey, why are you doing this by yourself, and what's the number that you need to net at the end of the day, right? And then giving value. So listing booklets from the title company was great. Drop those off for open house signs as well, and then giving them tips on where to put the property, like Craigslist, Zillow, market it on Facebook. Because the more information I could give them, the more that they're going to trust me, right? And when I gave them all that information, they saw some traction, but they weren't getting the house sold. So ultimately, they want to sell, right? So if they're missing out on opportunity after opportunity, well, when I come in on my 5th or 6th or 13th call, they're like, okay, I've tried everything that you said. I've been doing research. I'm just not getting the sale that I want. So I'd go in, ask them what they wanted to net, and be completely honest with them. Like, I can net you this higher number. I can net you this lower number, but we have to be realistic. So once you empathize, you build the trust with them, they're gonna come to you at that point in time, right? And I would always send a thank you card after the call and just let them know, send them an email, etc. But things even morphed even more, right? Because then I started developing my CRM, which had like text messages automated and emails automated, and then I'd have a better follow-up system for the for sale by owners. So I found if I called them on Monday, they were tired of what they were doing on the weekend, just sitting there showing their house to everybody, right? So I'd say, hey, how did the weekend go? Oh, we didn't really get as much traction as I thought, or we had 5 people through there, and I missed out on my kid's soccer game because I was going to be there. But one thing that I'd always do is say, hey, like 3 or 4 houses just sold off the market this weekend that were very similar to yours. So FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. They're missing out on the market traction and getting to their destination. So Mondays were huge for that. Fridays were touching base with them, just see if I could land the appointment before the weekend, because they would talk about what they're gonna have to stay at the house for the showings. They have some showings. They want to do an open house. And a lot of times they didn't want to do that, right? So I was like, hey, I can take this off your plate. I can get it handled. I will get it on the market within 24 hours. We can start the weekend fresh. And often I would get people that are like, okay, I'm tired of this. Like, let me give you a 90-day listing. Perfect. I'll take a 90-day listing. Go to the appointment and get the house sold. Which was great. Cancel and expireds, similar follow-up, but they were going to just be once a week. You had hot, warm, and cold, right? So there would be certain follow-up systems that I have in a PDF that I give to my team and give to my coaching students as well. But what I realized, and it's cliche, right? But fortune is in the follow-up with all of these leads, right?
Oh, for sure.
And touching base. Well, you get to a point when you're doing those calls that you're like, dang, it'd be really nice not to have to cold call every single day for 3 or 4 hours, right? So then I'm like, I should get more referrals from my sphere of influence. But how was I going to do that? I hadn't built out the system yet for the CRM to have the mailers go out, the automatic calls and text messages. It was kind of just on a whim when I was going to reach out to them.
Right.
So I started building that out. And I would send text messages, emails. I would follow up with them every 75 days or so.
This is to your SOI.
This is to my SOI.
Sphere of influence.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I wanted more of the referrals. I just didn't want to do the cold calling every
Right.
single day to cancel and expired. I was willing to do it for a little bit longer, but I wanted to transition.
Right.
So once I got that system built out, and then I started posting on social media a little bit more, which was huge for me. So a lot of people think that, you know, social media is this and that, like they're just not happy with it. But it's a great tool. And for me, it was a nurture tool. So I would post 3 or 4 times a week, just business stuff. Like what are the listings? What's the market looking like? Etc. The other days of the week, I'd be posting personal stuff. So I didn't get unfollowed, or people were just like, oh, it's just all about his business. They want to see family life in there as well.
Yeah.
Well, once I started doing that, I started getting a lot more referrals as well. And it was from people I hadn't talked to in 3 or 4 years, but I was friends with them on Facebook. Right. So they'd be like, hey, my son, Johnny called me and said that you sell real estate. He went to high school with you. You're doing really well. Yep. Do you mind if you come over for a listing appointment? I'm like, absolutely. I haven't talked to Johnny in forever. How's he doing? XYZ. Right. I know we're friends on Facebook, and it's cool that he has his 2 kids. But it helped me stay in touch with people that I wasn't necessarily making calls to, right?
Well, and to that point, this is something huge about social media, is that you were discussing different touches.
Yeah.
You have to touch people about 13 different times before you get an appointment.
Yep.
Social media is a way to say you're posting like you are 3 to 4 times a week about your business, and then the other days you're posting about your family. Say you're posting 7 times a week. You're posting once a day.
Yeah.
That's 7 touches to however many people that you have in your connection base on social media every single day. But it's one action that's covering all this playing field. Yep. And those are touches.
Yep.
Like, and I've seen this so many different times where I've had an agent screenshot a conversation that they had with somebody on Instagram that said, hey, I've been following your content for 2 months now.
Yeah, I love
and you've been talking about interest rates, and you've really made my husband and I feel better about, you know, making this move to purchasing a home. We'd like to sit down and talk to you about, you know, in greater detail about what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Boom. That's because of the touches that she's been making those past 2 months.
Yeah.
Without that lead doesn't come in.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful because, you know, social media is a powerful tool. It's just you have to change your perspective on it. Now, for me, I really like your strategy because there's a lot of people who just depend on social media for everything.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who have had success going that route. But in order to be the best that you can be as an agent, you have to have different disciplines that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think the phone calling thing is, you know, it's a tough gig.
Yeah.
You know, like calling random people.
Oh, it's hard.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
But it's a habit. It's a habit building. Like right now, you could call a random person and do it without even blinking.
Yeah.
Like you could just do it. But you've been doing it for years.
I did a training the other day with one of my new team members, right? Yeah. And so we did cold calling. We called cancel expireds for self-owners and then did our neighborhood calling.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what did you pull out of this session? She goes, it's actually not as bad as you think, right? Mm-hmm. I had one guy cuss me out of, I think it was 137 calls.
Explain that situation. What happened?
So it's a canceled listing. I ended up calling him. He's been hammered by a lot of other agents, right? Mm-hmm. It was our 3rd call to him. Finally picks up and he's like, hey, I don't need your services. Go suck a you-know-what and F off. And I'm like, okay, no worries, right? And so I did put him...
That's real. That's what he said.
Yeah. I mean, he...
In more explicit terms.
Yeah. And my team member's like laughing. She's like, are you going to call him again? I'm like, absolutely. And she's like, why? I'm like, because if he says that to other agents, in a week, he might forget who had called and calm down a little bit, right? Because I get it from my perspective too. Like if I'm getting calls on my rental properties over and over again, I'm going to get a little upset with that, right?
Yeah.
And probably take it to yell at somebody once or twice, right? During a day if I'm not feeling very well.
Yeah.
So My favorite thing though is mean people, because if you're following up with the mean people, nobody else is following up with
Everybody's
them.
dropping off.
Yeah, so I put them in my calendar to call next week because I know that from day to day, somebody can change, right?
Yeah.
She laughed about it. She's like, I don't think I'd ever do that. But then I gave that example of
That's
mean people
beautiful.
don't get followed up
That's just business.
Yeah.
Like it's people think too emotionally about it. Like they were rude to me, and now they're dead to me. Like it's over. But for you, it's like, no, that's an opportunity to close that, to create a lead out of that, because like you said, they're not going to remember who they cussed out.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to remember anything. They may just have been having a bad day.
Yeah.
The next week they may cuss at you again, but when will it come time to where they're like, you know what, I do need help?
Yeah.
And who's going to be following up with them?
I've called somebody that treated me like that on the phone 2 days later, and they end up giving me an appointment.
Yeah.
And they end up saying, hey, I was pretty rude to a lot of people that were calling. Hopefully that wasn't you. I was just going through a bad time.
Yeah.
But, after thinking about this more, I do need to get the house sold. So you want to come over for an appointment. But the other 136 calls that day were not that bad, right?
Right.
It was seamless. And she's like, you just make it look so easy.
Yeah.
But that's with anything, right? It's just practice, knowing what your conversations are going to look like.
Absolutely.
And so one thing that a lot of people think is that they have to have like the perfect script, right?
Yep.
And for me, it's not the perfect script. You have a couple opening sentences, and then you're trying to fact find. You're trying to build rapport with them,
right?
Which is huge. So for me, my script is question-based scripting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So open the call. Hey, Beau, this is James Michener with Realty One. Hey, I saw the house came off the market. Do you mind me asking why that didn't sell? Right? And then they start going into it. And then I say, was there anything with the marketing that could have been done differently? Did you set the price for it? Where are you looking to move to, Beau? And just start asking these questions. And a lot of times you just want to sit back and let them talk, because they'll give you all the answers to your future questions right in there.
Right.
And if you have active listening and you're able to talk back to them about what they had presented you with in the conversation, then they feel that you care, which I do genuinely care, because I know that I've helped a lot of people through that situation and get their house sold and get them to their grandkids. But it also gets you a ton of business.
Right.
There's a lot of agents that go in and they're super direct, rude, and they don't try to build the rapport. And I've heard that so many times, like, oh man, I don't know why I'm talking to you on the phone, but I've hung up on everybody else. Like, really, right? And I just take that to like, hey, I'm genuinely caring. Yeah. I'm smiling when I'm on the phone. Yeah. And I'm smiling because I know that it's going to get me to a destination where I want to be, which is financial freedom. Yeah. So let me give you an example of like building those systems and changing the conversations from scripts to question-based. My first year, 26 deals. My second year, 87. My third year, 137. And then it was 150, 180, 220, 276, and then 337, right? So, but that took years to do, because I didn't hire a coach right away. Right. Which is something that I should have done in the beginning so that I knew the systems. Yeah. And we'd probably be in a better spot now if I would have done that. But
for sure.
But as you can see, like, it progressed, right? Mm-hmm. And you make those alterations, you follow up with the right people, and you just go after the business, and then add social media into it as well. Yep. So that was huge for me to see that happen, right? And I'm going to go back to the beginning, where grew up poor, didn't have a whole lot. And today I have 26 rental properties, 14 of them are paid off. I loan hard money, and all of that was generated through commission income, which was huge for me, because I could live off of 50% of my income and then invest the other 50%. Right. And what I found through the prospecting, which was great, is there was a lot of people that are like, hey, I don't want to deal with showings. I just want an offer, cash offer as is. Can you give that to me? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would either take down the deal or give it to one of my investors. Yeah. But I started figuring out that those investors were either going to keep it as a rental property, so I was never going to get the back end commission on that. Right. They were going to fix and flip it and give it to their friend or their cousin that just became an agent. And so I figured out what wholesaling was, right? Mm-hmm. Where you take down a contract as a buyer, but you put or a signee on there. Right. And so I started assigning the deals to my investors. Yeah. The first time I did that, I made $50,000 on one deal, which was just amazing, right? Yeah. And then I figured out these investors need money, and I'd saved up a bunch of cash.
Mm-hmm.
So I started lending them the money. The first deal I did, I made 12 grand, sent a wire transfer basically, and got paid back in 6 weeks, $12,000. I was like, wow, there's something in this.
Oh, for sure.
But it was all generated through calling, right?
Right.
And then another huge part of that is it was generated through social media as well. Because a lot of my friends that saw me posting on Facebook, like, hey, I just bought this rental, or I just did this fix and flip, or my investor just picked up this property. A lot of times they'd reach out to me and say, well, I see that you're buying properties or you have investors, so I don't have to deal with the showings and just sell it as is, and no commissions. Would you be willing to take it down or have your investor? I'm like, absolutely. I buy 5 properties by doing that, that I'm keeping, and then another 10 or 20 that I either fixed and flipped or wholesaled out.
Right.
So, but this real estate is a freeway, right? And your freeway, for me, that I understand now, is prospecting, leads to listings, leads to wholesale, leads to fix and flips, leads to rentals, and leads to private money investing, right?
Right.
But I can do all of that when I'm prospecting. I can look for all 5 avenues. So I'm most likely going to have an answer for somebody if they need to get out of their house, which was huge for me.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's amazing. So, but here's what I want to focus on, because I think I would love this, and I know you would love this, to see more people achieving their dreams. And their dreams may just be to, you know what, in real estate, I want to make $100,000, and and I want to spend time with my family, and that's what I want to do. But right now, I'm struggling to do that. That's where people may be right now. I'm struggling to reach that 100. I'm struggling to make 75,000. I'm struggling just to be where I want to be, where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe not to even get to the place where you're at, but just to be comfortable with their life and be successful in their definition in their life and in real estate. So, you know, you started off by saying how you grew up poor, you know, there was nobody kind of helping you along and helping you when you fell down. Like you had to fight through that. So for the people that may be listening to that, you know, what should they just be picking up their cell phone? Where do they go find leads? You know, how do they find this information? Should they, you know, and in my opinion, I didn't always believe in this, but I do believe that having like a mentor or a coach in your life that helps you along with those decisions, you know, it's hard to put a price on that, you know, because it's more about, I mean, coaches do cost money. They do cost all that, but it saves you so much time. It's
the dumb tax that you save, right?
Yeah.
And the time that you're saving. I didn't notice huge increase in my business until I switched things up, right?
Yeah.
But I had to learn that from somewhere.
Right.
Whether that was going to a mastermind, hiring a coach, going to an event. But when I had that one-on-one time with my coach, or I did the course, like my wholesaling course, it was exponential what happened. So for me, I wish I would have hired a coach and stuck with it earlier.
Right.
And not have paid that dumb tax and tried to figure it out myself or through YouTube. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you can find anything you want on YouTube.
Right.
It's good, right? But there's also a sense of community that you build through group coaching, or just having a coach that's one-on-one giving you direction.
Right.
Because there's other people that are in this, and there's other people trying things out that you didn't think of, or just a little minor tweak that'll make you tons of money.
Well, and with YouTube and with social media in general, since there's so many people on it, there's good information and there's bad information.
Yeah.
And then there's really good information and there's really bad information. So, you know, it's hard to unless you have like somebody like James that recommends somebody, or it's James himself, it's hard to find that really good or that good information. So if you have somebody that you trust, that you know has accomplished what you would like to accomplish, and or get you to the place where you're okay being, because not everybody really cares about making a bunch of money and like living a lavish life. They care about just taking care of their family, maybe going on a trip or two during the year, having all their bills taken care of, drive the car that they want, and that's it. Like, they don't want to become somebody in real estate. They just want to make a good life, a good living, and have a good life.
Absolutely.
And what I've been seeing is that there's a lot of people who are a little nervous right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, to that point, like, let's go back to the cold calling, because, you know, I'm a fan of social media. I'm not a fan of social media. I'm a fan of attention, which is what we've talked about, and social media is that. But I want to focus on the calls because that's just straight up hustling.
Yeah.
Like, yes, be posting on social media and be getting those free touches with very little effort. But with cold calling, if somebody's like, you know what, okay, James, you're right. I'm listening to you. I'm going to start making cold calls today.
Yeah.
Where do I find those numbers? How do I know who to call? Where do I find it?
That's a great question. And aside from getting the data, you also need to pick your schedule out when you're going to dedicate that time to the prospecting, because that's going to make a huge difference in follow-up and conversion. Right. So for me, building out that schedule was huge. My family knew what I was doing. My friends knew what I was doing. My clients knew what I was doing during a set period of time. So I wasn't getting interrupted. Yep. And then it came down to, okay, so I have that figured out. Now where's the data? Where do I need to get the data, right? And if you don't have a lot of money, you can get leads from the title company, asking for phone numbers and whatnot. They're not super great, in my opinion, for the most part, but they're free, and you're going to get about 30 to 40% of those being correct, right? Right. So what I would do if I didn't have a lot of money is think about sweat equity, right? Yep. What can I do to not have to spend a lot of money, but do better than I'm doing currently? Right. So you can get the data from the title company, which can be pretty good in some cases. Yep. Or you can get it from a database such as PropStream, Batch Leads, Vulcan 7. Yep. Mojo has its own neighborhood data as well. Yep. But you want to buy the best data, in my opinion. So as soon as you start making a commission check, reinvest it into your business. Oh, yeah. Because for me, whenever I made a commission check, I was thinking ahead of what am I going to invest this into, right? So for a while I had Vulcan 7, I was just buying their data, right? But it only had a single line dialer. Right. And I found myself only calling like 30 to 40 people a day. And I'm like, man, I really need to get to like 150 because I see it on social media that people are dialing, right? So I get the data. Then you need to figure out a good dialer, right? Yeah. Like what fits for you. Right. So Mojo Sales is great because it's a 1, 2, or 3 line dialer. Right. And I knew that I could touch way more people by doing that, right? Yeah. And then another big part of that is they have texting platforms as well, which are great. So you take that data that you get, you plug it into a texting system, and then you can outbound reach through text message and phone call if you want. You can also do it through your CRM as well. Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to break it down even a little bit further. Yeah. What about something as simple as this? Going to your phone and saying, okay, like I'm going to check mine right now. Let's see. So I don't even know. Oh, maybe it's at the very bottom. So 1,012. I have 1,012 contacts. Yeah. Would you recommend like somebody just to start getting comfortable dialing and talking to random people, or not random because they're in your contacts, but people that you haven't spoken to in a long time, high school friends that you haven't talked to in 10 years. Like, would you recommend just saying, you know what, on my cell phone, I'm going to start going down the list A to Z, finding people that I haven't talked to, calling them, letting them know I'm in real estate, finding out what their needs are. Would you recommend that? Just as a very simple first step to get comfortable with it. Absolutely. I feel like that'd be great. And what I would do in my phone is I would put, like when I save somebody's contact, I'd put like SOI or past client. That way I could just go into my phone, type in SOI. Exactly. Because I want to contact at least 5 of my sphere of influence a day. Right. So it was easy because if I wasn't by my dialer or I was on vacation or I just couldn't make time to get on my CRM, I could just go into my phone, type in SOI, and then send a text message through there, right? And know that I've made at least 5 touches. Right. And calling through your phone is great as well because you already like taking those that data in your phone and then exporting it or just calling through starting from A to Z. Right. Because they already know who you are. They most likely know that you're in real estate. And if they don't, you're just having a conversation. Right. My favorite thing about the sphere of influence leads and your database just in your phone is people ask you questions like, oh, what are you up to? And you say, oh, I'm selling real estate. Yeah. Which is great because then you don't have to bring up
Right.
your
You don't have to bring
business.
it up.
And
Right.
everybody loves talking about real estate.
Right.
So I found it really easy to transition into that
Right.
and let them know how the market's doing, what I'm doing, and not have to ask for a referral.
Yeah.
So a lot of people they have like a script that says at the end of it, hey, if you know of anybody looking to buy or sell, let me know, right?
Right.
For me, that was just too salesy, and I just
Yeah.
didn't want to change my my conversation, the good conversation I had with them,
Right.
into a sales call,
Right.
right? So I never did that because
Yeah.
they already knew that I was a real estate agent, and
Right.
if they needed to refer me, they could.
Right.
So that's a great point, Beau. It's just going through your cell phone and making those calls.
Well, and I'm just trying to break it down for people, just because it's like, there may be people who just were really depending on their real estate career being held up by going to events and networking and
yeah,
and just working on, posting on social media casually, which if you're going to go the social media route, go all in.
yeah,
Because like we're talking about there, you're making so many touches with people at once, which is huge. To where then when you do go down and you do decide you're going to go the cold calling route, they've been seeing you post about things on social media about the fact that you're in real estate. Then you guys get to catch up, number one, because you haven't talked since high school. I just had a buddy text me a photo of him and I when we played soccer together in high school.
nice.
And, that was really cool. And I haven't talked to him in forever. And it's just really good ways to like reconnect, number one,
Yeah,
and then bring up the fact that, hey, look, I'm selling real estate now.
Yep.
Or have them see that you are selling real estate because of your social media.
Yeah.
They bring it up. Then you get into a conversation. I mean, and you've probably had this happen so many times, and I've heard this type of situation happen where they're talking to somebody. Maybe they're not ready to buy or sell, but they said, oh my gosh, I just was talking to my mom.
yes,
And
yes.
it's so funny that you called because she's making a move from
Yep.
Phoenix to Prescott. And it's like, it's a God thing that you called because we were just talking about it.
Yeah, or we were thinking about you because you're a social media post, right?
Exactly.
That's happened so much to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, and even for me, it's funny because like I've had people just strictly from social media.
mm-hmm.
I've had probably, I'll go on the conservative side and say I'll say 6 people from my high school have DM'd me on Instagram asking me to list their house.
Oh, well.
So they don't understand, the role I play and because they just don't understand real estate in general, which is fine.
Yeah,
They shouldn't. They don't work in it, so they don't understand. They don't really understand like titles role versus real estate versus lender versus whatever.
yeah.
They just know I'm in real estate. They reach out, and so then I was able to help them find somebody. But it's just about touches. It's about being in front of people. It's about having conversations. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Whether you are cold calling, whether you're cold DMing, whether you are sending mailers, whatever you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
look at how many conversations you're having.
Yeah.
And most likely that number needs to go way up.
Yeah, it does. So you need to have at least 20 contacts, 15 to 20 contacts a day in order to make over $100,000, right?
Okay. Say that again.
You need to have at least 15 to 20 contacts a day to make over $100,000 and to keep your business going straight, right?
Yep.
Instead of this roller coaster effect.
Yep.
A lot of people will have the roller coaster effect, which my guardian father warned me about.
Yeah.
Which is you got a bunch of escrows and then you're down and then you're building back up.
Right.
And I never wanted to have that, right?
Right.
I always want to have consistency. I always
Yes.
wanted to have an upward trajectory of what I was doing.
Right.
But I had to
Right.
make those contacts.
Right.
And if you don't like cold calling, you don't have to do cold calling exactly, but you need to touch base with your CRM at least.
Right.
You have to make an outbound call to people that you know or
Right.
people that you've met. So
Right.
for me, I would go to these are some great examples, right?
Yep.
Going to yard sales and talking to people.
Oh, interesting.
Hey, are you looking
Yep.
to sell your house?
Yep.
Well, we might in a year. We're just trying to downsize, etc. I would give them my card and see if I could get their information.
Yep.
The other thing is when people start doing work to their house, right, in the neighborhood, stop by, say, hey, I see
interesting.
that you're doing some stuff to the house. Are you looking to sell? And a lot of times what people do is they'll start working on their house so that they can then put the house on the market. Another thing is going to clubs and events, right? Like get involved with clubs and interests that you have, because if you do that, you're going to build a networking group and you'll be their go-to realtor in there.
Right.
But you'll also start building your database as well of people that they like you, you like them, and you have a similar interest.
Right.
So those are just little things that you can do. And a
Right.
lot of times communities will have community yard sales, right? So you're striking up a
Absolutely.
conversation with the owner, talking to them about the property, and sometimes they're like, hey, my neighbor down the street's actually looking to sell. You should go reach out to him.
Oh,
I've had that happen like at least 10 times, and that's probably turned into 5 listing
and
appointments.
just straight up conversations with people.
Yep.
It's so funny because it seems like with social media, with cold calling, with all these different lead source activities you can do, everybody's trying to find like the golden ticket or the hack. Like there's so many people talking about hacks.
Yep.
And it's funny because you have found enormous success in real estate.
Yeah.
And I've never once heard you say, Beau, I have this hack. I have this like shortcut. I have this thing that it's never that. Every time I talk to James, it's I'm putting in the work. I tell my team to put in the work. It's hustle. It's just having more conversations.
Yeah.
It's funny because we've talked about this before, and it's funny when I bring this up. The people who do the least amount of business always have the biggest opinion on something.
Oh, yeah.
They always have the biggest opinion on social media. They always have the biggest opinion on cold calling. And every time we have talked, your mind has been opened up to something new. It's like, it's so funny how that happens. The people who are doing the most amount of business are the most open-minded people.
Yeah.
They're like, how can I add to my arsenal of things to make more money, to do
Absolutely.
more deals?
Yeah.
And for the people that are not there, it's like making excuses.
Yeah.
Social media is not going to be the answer. Instead of saying, oh, I get to use social media as part of my business.
That's what I like. Yeah. You get to
Exactly.
use it as part of your business.
Exactly.
Because you need to have an arsenal of weapons that you're going to use. Cold
Right.
calling, social media,
Yep.
Networking, talking to your sphere of influence by going to parties and events, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff builds your business. It's
Right.
not just one thing. And for like a lot of people are huge on YouTube, like, oh, I'm going to get a bunch of leads on YouTube, right?
Right.
Well, guess what? When you get those leads from YouTube, where do they go?
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to have to go into a CRM, right?
Yep.
So are you going to call that CRM after you've gotten those leads?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to do a one call, see if they'll work with
Right.
you, and then let it go?
Right.
So it all comes down to calling.
big, yeah.
So you get the leads from Facebook, you get the leads from YouTube, you
Right.
get the leads from your networking group.
Yep.
You have to continue to follow up with those.
Right.
So you need to have a system put in place
Absolutely.
for that.
Yeah. So systems, I do believe they're huge. And I think systems, it's great because I'm able to kind of speak for a lot of people in real estate.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes when you say systems or when you say things, it's intimidating. Like they don't know where to
For
start.
sure. Yep.
Right. And so I think that that's something, and I think that's what's great. I mean, we'll talk about it, but we've talked a little bit about your coaching and the things that you're getting ready to dive into. And I'm excited for you because I think you're going to be able to help a lot of people, which is cool.
Yeah.
But what I think is cool is like, so YouTube, I know, I wouldn't say a lot, but I know probably a handful of agents who have built their business on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they say the same thing what we're talking about now. They say, what's nice is that I make a 12-minute video on YouTube about a new subdivision.
Yep.
But then I take little pieces of that and I put them as YouTube shorts and I put them on different places.
Yeah.
But YouTube, I always say, go check out the full version. This is what they're saying. Check out the full version on YouTube and check out this whole subdivision. And they say, look, during that 12 minutes, how many touches did you just make with them? They're watching you for 12 minutes.
I love
They're
that.
getting to know who you are
Yep.
in a long version video. They're getting to see the way you move your hands. They're getting the way they see how you do your hair. I mean, they're getting to see so many things about you.
How they
where-
interact if they like you.
Exactly.
They'll have a perception of if they like you.
So
or
when
not.
they reach out, they they know who they're talking to.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is huge. So this is interesting. I typed this in. What are common objections realtors get when cold calling FSBO prospects? I typed that into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And a lot of the objections here are things that we hear all the time. First one, we want to save on commission. Okay, so we've talked about that one.
Yep.
One that I see here is really interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So you call me, I'm the for sale by owner, and I say, I've really had a terrible experience with other agents in the past. I don't want to go down that road again.
Absolutely, and I completely understand that. And just so you know, I make these calls daily. So I work with a lot of for sale by owners. Last year, I closed 53 of them, and by doing the same exact system that I'm doing now and that I want to present to you.
Right.
So I know that you had a bad experience. Can you just touch base on that just a little bit?
Yeah, they just didn't sell my house as fast as they said they would. They really didn't have like a marketing plan in place. I just didn't feel right. And I mean, they picked up my calls and stuff. It just didn't seem like they were as invested as I would like them to be. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. There's a ton of agents in our market, right? We have 3,000 realtors, and they're not all created equal.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a proven system that'll get you the number that we can net you. It'll give you a marketing plan that'll get the house actually sold. And I promise you, I'll be completely upfront with you on the price, the time frame that we can get it sold, and the marketing that I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I pride myself on, is transparency. That's what you felt like you were missing before?
Yeah,
right?
it definitely seemed like that was a problem.
So I'll be completely transparent with you. If you give me 15, 20 minutes, stop by, take a look at the house, talk to you. If you like it, we can stay a little bit longer. If you don't, just kick me out of the door.
Yeah.
But I promise you, you're not going to have that same experience. And it's proven by the other for sale by owners I sold this year.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then it'll probably go to two different ways. It'll go, okay, fine, I'll talk to you. And if I don't want to do it, then I'll ask you to leave. Or, okay, you know what, James, that sounds good. I do like that answer. Let me think about it. Let me talk to the wife, and then we'll give you a call back. And then it's at least that's a lead now, and now you can follow up on that lead, and you can be there to nurture it, which is great.
Ask that question again. Do that objection one more time, because there's other ways that you can handle it.
Okay, so you call me on the for sale. Hey, James, we're going to do a for sale by owner. We've had a terrible experience with other agents before, and we've made the decision we're not going to hire an agent ever again.
Absolutely. So this is where you want to move into question based, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to say what was so bad about that experience, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, the marketing was bad. They weren't transparent about what I was going to be netting, and it was just it was horrible.
When they came to the house and showed you what they were going to do, did they show you an exact marketing plan that they were doing, or did they just talk to you about it?
They showed us a plan. It didn't seem like they were executing the plan like they said they would. Yeah,
and I completely understand that. And one thing that we do is we actually send you a marketing email once we get the house listed with links of what we've actually done to promote your property, and then we follow up with you on a weekly basis. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And one of the biggest objections I get is I didn't even know what they were doing to sell my house, right? I didn't even get communication with them.
Yeah.
So it's really important for me, Beau, to make sure I'm staying in communication and show you what I'm doing to get your house sold. So if you had that better communication and I was showing you what I was doing and you were getting the showings that you wanted, would that be something that would make you happy?
Yeah, that'd be better than our last experience.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when we meet, I'll go over the marketing plan, show you what we can do, but I'll be completely upfront with you on what we should be able to net you at the end of the day after commissions and closing costs.
Okay.
And you'll see that the difference isn't going to be that much more from what you have it listed by owner to what we're actually going to get you. But again, I just want to let you know, I've done this for years and years, and I know that communication is key. Showing you what I'm doing is key, and being completely transparent is what you want.
So what if they came back and they said this? Most likely they wouldn't, but just playing devil's advocate, just going all the way. What if you go through that, you understand that you had a bad experience, not all agents are created equal, like your marketing plan has been proven, and then they said, we're super serious, we'll never use an agent again.
You'll never use an agent. So
after you go through your whole thing, they say, you're a cool dude, James, but there's just no way.
So if you don't mind me asking, Beau, then if you're not ever going to hire an agent, what are you going to do with the property if it doesn't sell?
We're just going to sit on it. We're just going to wait. Where
do you need to get to, if you don't mind me asking? What's your plan?
We just want to relocate, downsize.
Okay. So you're wanting to downsize and relocate? But let me ask you this, Beau. If there was a proven plan that I could net you the amount of money you wanted at the end of the day, and that I have success stories and I can show you for sale by owners that were on the market for sale by owner and that I listed and sold, would that be something that would help you?
Yeah, I mean, it would, but here's the deal is that the person that sold or attempted to sell my house last time, he said the same thing that about the agent before him, and it's just been a pain.
Yeah.
So,
and I completely understand that. Let me ask you this. So you've probably interviewed a lot of different people for various jobs, right?
mhm.
And you probably have seen differences in what they can do, but you ended up hiring one of those guys at the end of the day
Yeah.
to get the job done, right?
Yep.
So what I feel like is maybe you just didn't interview the right person and somebody that has a track record of actually being able to sell properties like you
Right.
and work with people like you as well.
Right.
And again, throughout my career, on average, I sell about 25 to 30 for sale by owners. Not a lot of agents focus on this, but I do because I understand that you're coming from a place of maybe you just didn't have a good experience. You want to save the commission.
Mhm.
But I promise you that I can show you a way that we can get your property sold and net you the number you want at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And again, if the marketing plan doesn't work out for you, the net number doesn't work for you, kick me out of the house. But
Yeah.
here's my track record of the properties I've sold by owner.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to just stop by, take a look, and see what I can do to help you?
Yeah. No, I think that the thing that you're, you're really emphasizing on is like, first of all, empathy.
Yeah.
Understanding that the situation that they've had before it sucked,
Mhm.
and that you understand that. And then, but getting to that place, especially if you have somebody that's adamant,
Yeah.
just continue to ask questions, listening. That's the real key. And honestly, with my situation, most likely they're going to say, okay, well, let me talk to the wife and we'll schedule something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you kind of have to go through this thing. And then if they ghost you or whatever. But it's just, empathizing with them, getting to a place where you can continue asking questions. And that's key. But
and one of the things that you're going to see with those, especially when you get objections like that and they're just not ready, is the more you follow up with them, the more you're going to build trust, and the more that they're going to see that you're a hustler and you want to get the job done.
Okay,
So,
what about this here? This is a good one, actually. Right here. Let's say this guy has a really great place, really hot place, price is good, and you call me. I'm a first sale by owner, and so go ahead.
So it's a great place and whatnot.
No. Just you're calling me. Yeah, I'm a first sale by owner.
Hey, good morning, Beau. It's James Michener at Realty One. How are you today?
I'm doing good, James. How are you?
Well, I'm great. Thank you for asking. Hey, I just was looking online and I was looking for some buyers that I have in the area and saw that you have a property at XYZ Street. Man, that's beautiful. You did a great job with the photos and whatnot. Yeah. How's that going? Do you have any offers on it currently?
Yeah, so I appreciate the comments. Yeah, we did a lot of good marketing ourselves on it and everything. And actually, we've had no offers yet, but we've had an extreme amount of interest. We've had 24 people in the last 2 weeks come through. A lot of people say that they're going to be making offers and stuff. So it's a no-brainer. This is going to sell the next week.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. So you've had it on the market for just about a week now, and you've had 24 showings on it. Do you mind me asking what the feedback's been and why it hasn't sold yet?
Yeah, the feedback has just been, like you said, it's a beautiful place. It's like I said, it's gonna go quick. The feedback mostly has been just people kind of like looky-loos, wanted to come in, they're curious about it. And they just say that they're, not ready right now, or they have to talk to their family or their spouse. And, but yeah, that's kind of been the feedback. Everybody has loved it.
Awesome.
And actually out of the 24 people that have come through in the last 2 weeks, 6 of them have said that they're going to try to submit an offer by the end of this week.
Oh wow, that's incredible. So out of those 24 showings, I'm sure you've had a lot of pre-qualified buyers as well, because you're probably not showing the house to anybody that's not pre-qualified, right?
Yeah, well, we actually haven't been checking that or anything.
Okay. Yeah, that's a huge part of our business, is just making sure that we're getting pre-qualified buyers through it, especially if we're going to have 24 showings. We don't want to waste your time or hours with that showing.
Yeah.
But that's great. You're going to have some offers come in later this week. And honestly, because your house fits the criteria of 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet, this is like one of the it fits every parameter that 90% of buyers want, especially in this market. Yeah. And again, you're priced really well. What are you going to do after that week if you end up not getting an offer on the house?
Oh, we'll have an offer.
You'll have an offer?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, Beau, if you don't have an offer, what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, just with the activity, it'll probably sell the following week or something. So we'll just, we'll post it on Facebook and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But we're pretty confident we'll have some good activity.
Well, again, you've been doing a lot of great marketing, and it definitely shows. But if you don't have an offer at the end of this week, or let me just ask you directly, Beau,
Yeah.
how long are you going to wait before you actually interview agents to get the house sold? Because again, your property's perfect, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, well priced, 1,800 square feet. There's a lot of buyers looking for this, and I thought you would have already sold because there's been 4 others that sold this week, very similar to yours.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm building the FOMO out right there.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because now I'm thinking, oh crap.
Yeah.
Why hasn't mine sold?
All right.
All right. Yeah. So if we don't have it sold, we have nothing against real estate agents. We think they're great. But we'll probably wait about a month and a half, until we need to use an agent.
Absolutely. And you're going to where again, Beau? If you don't mind me asking, what's the reason for selling?
We're just downsizing.
You're just downsizing? Okay, great. And then I get that. So you'll be waiting a month or so before you actually interview agents.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Generally, everybody that I've worked with that's for sale by owner has a number they want to net.
Mm-hmm.
And last year I sold 37 for sale by owners, and we had the same exact conversation. What's the number that you want to net? And if I can get you that number after commissions and closing costs and sell in a time frame that works for you, would you be willing to interview me? But real quick, Beau, what's the number that you're hoping to net?
We think that we're pretty confident we can get about $120.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
$120. Again, that's a great price that you're getting for the house.
Yeah.
What if I could show you that with the marketing plan and what I've done for other for sale by owners like you, that I can actually get that sold for you and get you net $120,000? And again, Beau, there were 4 other properties this week that actually sold that were very similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason I'm calling, is because I
Well,
can't believe it's on the market.
So I have a question. Why do you think those houses sold before mine?
Well, that's a great question, and it comes down to exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're with a real estate agent, you're only working with pre-qualified buyers. You're working with people that are directly looking for a house, and they're not just looking for a deal. A lot of my investors will actually call for sale by owners because they think they can negotiate with them a little bit more, and that they're more motivated than they are.
Right.
When you're on the MLS, you're getting shot out to every single website that's out there, and then you're using the most powerful tool for marketing a house, which is the MLS.
Yeah.
So instead of just random people looking on Zillow at it, you're getting pre-qualified buyers that are working with agents that want to buy.
Yeah.
So that's why, Beau, you just don't have the exposure that you need to.
Yeah.
And this is why I work with a lot of for sale by owners, because they need that exposure. I can generally net them what they want. Would you be open to me just stopping by, taking a look, give me 15, 20 minutes and see what we can do for you?
Yeah. Well, so boom, right there. And again, it's going to go in 2 different, let me talk to the wife, or come on by, So, I mean, that's great. And especially if.
What parts of that did you like in that?
Yeah. The part that I liked is, and the part that I always like is everybody typically cares about the money. So that's always the biggest thing is if you can get them just as much money, if not more money, by going with an agent, then that's going to be intriguing to them.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked was, because I kind of experienced this as well. When we were selling our house, we had a bunch of traffic in the beginning, but a lot of them weren't pre-qualified.
Yeah.
And that sucks because then you got to go through that process. And so that was a huge part of, because as consumers, they may not realize, I may have been getting a lot of interest, but how many of these people are actually serious and how many of these people are actually able to afford my house? Maybe none of them, maybe just a few of them. And I'm not going to be following up with a strategy and with a system like an agent would. And so I think that's our job as real estate professionals. I said this once and it really resonated with people. Actually, so I'm going to give Dale Turner credit, my coach. It's our job to do business with them, not their job to do business with us. And so the follow-up and the systems, that's everything. Because it's not their job to follow up with us about where interest rates are. It's our job to follow up with them about how we can help and give them updates and provide them with the information. So,
Because if you're not doing it, somebody else is most likely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And with those questions, when you're throwing out that, were those buyers pre-qualified?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. We weren't really checking that, right? So then that's another thing that they're thinking about, right? Oh, my house fits the perfect criteria.
Well, why isn't it selling as fast as those other four?
Yeah.
Now FOMO.
What buyers are looking for. Why isn't this selling? Honey, if we could get that number that he's talking about, what if we just go with him? Because he's already selling other houses. He's interested and thinks he can market it. Right. He's also worked with other for sale by owners like us.
Okay, so last scripting kind of situation here.
Yeah.
And this one I'm going to be a little tougher on.
Okay, cool.
So, okay. Go ahead.
Ring.
For sale by owner.
Ring.
Hello?
Hello, good morning, Beau. This is James Michener with Realty One. How are you today?
Hey, what's up, James? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Hey, I saw that you had a property at XYZ that was for sale by owner. Do you have any offers on that, or has it already sold?
No, we've had some activity and stuff. You know how this market is right now if you're in real estate, what's funny, James, is that what's funny about your calling is right now, currently in this moment, we're for sale by owner, but we just had another agent call us, and we're actually going to eventually, probably next week or about 2 weeks from now, sign with them and have them listed. But I appreciate you calling.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. How many interviews are you doing, if you don't mind me asking?
We've actually done about 6.
So you've done 6.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What kind of stood out from some of those and the one that you're actually thinking about hiring?
Oh yeah, so Jimmy John is the one we're going with. His strategy, his marketing plan, his systems, like he just blew our minds with how much he's gonna do, and so it was just a no-brainer.
Absolutely, and it sounds like a good fit. Just so you know, I sold quite a few properties in your neighborhood, and one of the reasons I was calling is because I do specialize in this particular type of house and this neighborhood. You interviewed the other 6. You like Jimmy John on what he's done with the marketing and his approach for it. Let me ask you this. If you could get an approach that would get you the number that you wanted to net at the end of the day, that would kind of compete with Jimmy John's, and you would have another agent that could do that for you, would that work?
Yeah, no, JJ, our man JJ, there's no way we'll go with somebody else. It's just, yeah.
Do you know JJ personally?
Well, he's our next door neighbor, but we only really know him because he came over and gave us some information, and he saw that we were kind of doing some house projects and stuff, and he came over and started talking with us. Really cool, offered us some tea and stuff, and so we went with him.
Yeah, JJ probably does quite a bit of business in that neighborhood, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, yeah, he does a ton.
He does? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Because I was just pulling up the numbers because I do know JJ. I've actually sold a few more houses in that neighborhood than JJ has over the past year. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of wondering what that marketing plan was that he was going to do for you. And again, I'm just bringing this up because I feel like I'd be the best agent for you. And JJ's your neighbor, so he can get to the house pretty quickly and whatnot. But you also probably don't want to ruin that friendship if it doesn't work out between you and JJ and you have to separate, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. And again, a lot of people will say that they want to hire their cousin or their friend to sell their house, and then at the end of the transaction, they're no longer friends with this person, right? Because mixing friendship with business is tough.
Right.
So out of the 20 houses I've sold in that neighborhood, I've actually sold 6 of those, which is twice as much as anybody else. So if I could get a proven marketing plan that works in your neighborhood, would that be something that you would give me a chance and interview with you?
Yeah, we may be able to do that. We may I'll talk to the wife and see, if we want to interview somebody else other than JJ, but we'll give you, I gotta go, but we'll give you a call if we decide to go that route.
Yeah, and just real quick, Beau, I'm actually going to be in your neighborhood either today at like 4 o'clock showing some property, or I'll be there tomorrow between 2 and 4. Mind if I stop by and just take a look real quick?
Yeah, tomorrow may be able to work.
Okay, so how about 2:30 tomorrow? I'll stop by and take a look.
Okay, yeah, that'll work.
So that's a really hard one to overcome.
You did good then.
Yeah, it's a really hard one to overcome. And what you're trying to do is see, and you got to know your stats really well, right?
Yeah.
And you got to know what they're selling and whatnot.
Right.
And you don't want to do agent bashing, but you want to show yourself as a better agent than that person.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So
that was good. That was good.
And a lot of things I'll do is I'll pull up like hey, well, just so you know, I work with the #1 brokerage. I'm on the #1 team in town as well. So you want to make sure you're getting the most amount of money and the best marketing plan correctly.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, yeah, hopefully. But again, that's going to, so if he's going to sign in a week with JJ, guess what? I'm going to be following up in 2 or 3 days trying to get that, even if I don't
just
get the appointment.
to get them to just reconsider.
Yeah, and honestly, if it's a listing that I want, I'll stop over there and drop off my marketing plan in CMA so that they can see it. Because if I can get face to face with somebody, I feel like I can crush it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's good. I think that's extremely valuable. I think it's valuable for, just the script in general, just to kind of keep in the back of your head if you're an agent watching this or listening. And, maybe you just went through something like that because maybe you are on the phones and you just got completely stumped and you were just like, you know what? I have nothing else left. I'm out. I don't know what else to say. It gave you some ideas. And so I think that's great. And so I don't know. I think that the two main veins that real estate agents should be focusing on is staying in front of a massive audience, and that's with social media. And I also think, though, that they need to be hitting places where people don't want to go, like canceled, expires. Most people don't want to pick up the phone and dial strangers that most likely are not going to be friendly.
You know what I found, though, is more call reluctance is on calling your sphere of influence and people you know than the people you don't know, right?
Really?
Because you
less consequences, maybe.
Less consequences. You don't want to come off as salesy, and it's easier to talk to somebody you don't know than somebody you know asking them for business.
Right.
So, and that's definitely for me, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to give the sphere of influence a call, it's definitely just going to be having a casual conversation, hoping they bring real estate up, right? But this goes to your point right now, is those veins that you're going to be focusing on. You want to go where there's less traffic, right? And where there's less traffic, there's going to be more opportunity because there's going to be less competition.
Right.
So
which means it's going to be more challenging. Which, if you can overcome those challenges, then there is your golden ticket.
Yeah.
Go where people don't become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
So that way you bypass all those people, because let's just be honest, the action of social media is easy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe doing video and editing and being comfortable on camera, that's different. But making a video, hitting post or taking a picture and hitting easy. Calling somebody that you don't know or that you do know and that you haven't talked to in a while, that's a little bit more challenging. And then actually being skilled enough to close on that call, or at least get to the point where they're okay with you doing some follow-up. That takes the system.
It does.
That's
But one of the big parts of prospecting is making sure that we're trying to remember what the objections are and what's helped with you in the past, right?
Right.
So depending on the personality of somebody, you might have a objection that's completely different than the last person that you talk to, but it's the same topic, right? So for me, I think it's a great idea to have an objections journal, right? And you have it for canceled, you have it for expired, you have it for for sale by owners, and you're writing down what are those objections, which objection handling helped, which objection handling didn't help, right?
Oh, interesting, yeah.
But the more you do it, it's like shooting in basketball, right?
Yep.
You're going to get your shot down, you're going to be more fluid, you're going to be more comfortable with it.
Yep.
So you just have to get more shots.
Exactly.
More shots out, and then you'll get more success as well.
Well, yeah, I love basketball references. Game. Yeah, because I love basketball, and it's so true. First you start off just kind of learn the basics. You're right there by the hoop. Then you move out to the free throw line. You do a little more. Then you move out to the three. Then you're starting to do a lot better. Then you start having somebody defend you, and then you start having them defend you a little tighter.
Yeah.
And these are all just objections, but more challenging objections. To where now you can drain that three with a hand right in your face.
For sure.
Same thing with an objection. You can handle that without your heart rate increasing
going skyrocketing. And honestly, when you're making these calls, you can be nervous at and obviously on podcasts, and you're throwing out pretty tough objections and you're being pretty tough. So it can be a little nerve-wracking. Plus, you want to say the right thing in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not in front of the camera and you're just talking to the same type of lead that you've been talking to throughout the day and throughout the week, it becomes so much easier.
Oh my gosh!
And the reason you want to take notes on all this stuff is because when you're in any sport, you're going to watch film, right?
Yep.
And you're going to know if I go right and then left, I'm going to be able to get by this guy because he has this weakness, right?
Yep.
Well, For sale by owners, canceled and expireds each have their own individual weakness, right?
Yeah.
For canceled, it's usually communication. For expireds, it's like, hey, they didn't give me the right marketing plan, or we didn't price it correctly.
Right.
For sale by owners, it's going to be the objection of they just want to save money, or they
Yeah.
don't like real estate agents.
Right.
So you know what's happening. But by writing down those objections and noting all those, what worked and what didn't work, you're going to know if you need to go right or you need to go left on somebody.
Yeah, that's huge, and it is all about the reps. And I mean, you freaking killed it. Like I was being harder as it went on, and it didn't seem like you skipped a beat at all. Like it was, you kept the same flow. Yeah, and there was no like. I was actually having to think about what I was going to try to object to next, because you were so quick on the answers. Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah. There was no like, oh crap, like let me think about it, because I have no idea. Like just because of how many times, hundreds and thousands of times that you've done this. How many calls do you think you've made?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I've closed 1,500 deals in my career, so I'm probably definitely over 100,000 calls for sure. Yeah. And it took me a little while to get kind of like comfortable with it, right?
Of course.
And to know where I needed to go and what I needed to do. But just the practice in itself was just massive. And now, like when I was doing that training with my team member yesterday, she's like, you just seem so easy and you just flow with the conversation. Right. And a lot of times what you need to do is try to slow down. Mm-hmm. You need to let them speak, because again, they're going to tell you what they want. Right. You just have to listen and then rebuttal or reaffirm what they want. Right. Yeah. So, and a lot of people will bring up communication. Really? Is a huge thing. So you want to point back to like your reviews and your referrals and whatnot, but also when it comes down to communication, and if a canceled or expired has that issue, you following up on the phone with them will show that you're good at communicating and that you have a system and that you're wanting to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, yeah, that's a very good point as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think real estate at this point, it's a numbers game. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to wrap this up is,
do you mind if I touch on one thing real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one of the things you said was like systems, right? And what should a real estate agent be doing right now?
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think the first thing that you should be doing is getting your daily schedule down, right? Something that you're going to stick to and that you can stick to. Yeah. And no, it's not going to be an overnight success. Like it's going to take 90 days to get that schedule really honed in on what you're going to be doing. Oh, yeah. But the more you control your schedule, the more others will not control your schedule and the more money that you make, right? Mm-hmm. And then it comes down to discipline, like being disciplined to make those calls, being disciplined to learn and do role play and script practicing. Right. But a lot of people will think that they just need to do the script practicing and the role play with other agents, when really the best person that you can do that with is an actual lead. Right. So when it comes to the systems, you want to obviously have your CRM. You want to have your leads that you're getting from different companies. Yeah. You want to have your dialer. And then you want to make sure that you have a texting platform if you can. Right. But the most important things is CRM, your data that you're getting, and then a dialer at some point. And a lot of times a CRM will just cover all of that. But the biggest piece to all of this is making sure that you have good data. Yeah. Because if you don't have good data and it's only 30 to 40% accurate, you're going to get disheartened because it's already hard enough to call, but you're getting all these wrong numbers. You're like, oh man, these numbers are wrong. Like I'm just going through the reps and trying to get somebody that's not actually going to pick up the phone. Right. So pay for good data as well.
Yeah, because that I'm sure will be discouraging for people, like just constantly and then they're just going to like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to go do something else. Yeah. Because this is becoming too much of a hassle.
Yeah. And if you don't know where to go for information on where to start and whatnot, I mean, try YouTube, go into the Facebook pages. Yeah. But ultimately, like if you want to get the fastest track to success, you need to hire a mentor or you need to hire a coach or get some mentor that's doing what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. So great way to wrap this up, actually. Tell everybody kind of how they can get a hold of you if they are interested in just having the conversation of what does that coaching look like? Like, you know, how do they get started? Or just if they wanted to ask you some questions, like what's the best way that they can get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my phone at 928-308-4700 or michenercoaching@gmail.com. It's just my last name, Michener, coaching@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm just starting to use that a little bit. But the coaching is, there's a couple different sections that I have. I have the neighborhood domination that I'm teaching, where in 18 months I made a little over $500,000 on my farm that I was working. And I didn't do it through EDDM or all these mailers. I did it through sweat equity of pulling the data, calling the data, following up with the data in a strategic way, right?
Yeah.
And then referral after referral started coming in because I started seeing my sign. The other thing that I think that I'm teaching is 0 to 30 deals, right? So how to get to, when you're a new agent, to getting to 30 deals. Because if somebody can sell between 20 and 30 houses a year, they're making great money, at least over $100,000, right? Yeah. And you can do that fairly inexpensive without these elaborate systems. You can do it within, I mean, honestly, you could do it in 30 to 35 hours a week doing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then it'll show you what systems do you want to purchase, which ones do you want to use the most, who's going to be doing your paperwork, you know, CRM that's going to be best for you, and then going over scripts and where to find the data and how to use that data. Other thing is I teach on for sale by owners, which is really fun for me because, again, it's for sale by owner stands for fastest source of business opportunity, right? So they're free. They've already shown that they want to sell. Yeah. You can just use your cell phone and your Google Calendar for that one. So it really ranges. The other thing that I teach for agents that have a lot of experience and have a little bit of money saved up is how to become financially free through real estate. So for myself, I own 26 rental properties, have a good passive income, and I built that through my real estate business. So that's another thing that we can show you through rental acquisition, fix and flips, wholesale property, and private money notes as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've proven your methods, and it's been really cool to watch, and it's been cool to collaborate with you to provide more information to people so that they can grow their business and become better. So, cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning into this. I appreciate it. Reach out to one of us or both of us and let us know what you think. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you, James. It's always fun getting together and talking about this.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll do it again soon. We actually have some stuff coming up where we're going to be also talking with other agents who have found success in our market here in Prescott, and just some of the similar things that they've done and their stories and what they've done. So there'll be a lot more to come, but thanks again for tuning into this one, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, thanks.